Imagine sharing a cup of coffee with someone who, unbeknownst to you, is a psychopath. A chilling thought, isn't it? Yet, the reality is, psychopaths walk among us every day, blending seamlessly into the fabric of society. They could be anyone. The stranger sipping espresso at the corner table of your favorite cafe, the friendly neighbor who always smiles and waves, even the colleague you share lunch with. Today, we pull back the curtain on this mysterious condition, diving deep into the mind of a psychopath. So, what makes a psychopath? Let's delve into the fascinating world of their brains. Welcome to Brain Hub. The debate has raged on for years. Are psychopaths born or are they made? A question that has captivated and perplexed researchers, psychologists, and criminologists alike. So let's delve into the two main theories that attempt to explain the formation of psychopathy, nature, and nurture. On one side of the debate, we have the nature argument. This perspective suggests that psychopathy is largely a product of genetics. Science has shown us that certain genes can predispose individuals to exhibit traits often associated with psychopathy, such as impulsivity, aggression, and lack of empathy. Studies examining identical twins, where one is a psychopath and the other is not, have provided some of the most compelling evidence for the role of genetics. Despite sharing the same DNA and womb, only one twin develops psychopathic tendencies, suggesting that there's more to the story. And that brings us to the other side of the debate, nurture. This perspective argues that psychopathy is primarily the result of environmental factors. Childhood trauma, neglect, abuse, or an unstable family environment can significantly influence the development of psychopathic traits. A child exposed to these adverse conditions may learn to suppress their emotions as a survival mechanism, which could manifest as psychopathy later in life. However, it's important to note that most experts agree it's not a matter of either or. It's not solely nature or nurture, but a complex interplay of both that shapes a psychopath. You might think of it as a deadly cocktail, where genetics loads the gun and environment pulls the trigger. Therefore, a child with a genetic predisposition to psychopathy who grows up in a nurturing, supportive environment may never develop psychopathic traits. Conversely, a child without this genetic predisposition who endures severe childhood trauma may also never become a psychopath. The development of psychopathy, it seems, relies on a dark synergy between genes and environment. Regardless of the cause, one thing is certain: the brain of a psychopath is different. So, how does the brain of a psychopath differ from the rest of us? The brain of a psychopath is quite distinct, especially when we focus on two crucial regions: the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure deep within the brain, plays a pivotal role in our emotions, particularly fear and aggression. Studies have shown that psychopaths have a significantly smaller amygdala compared to non-psychopaths. This difference is crucial as it impacts their emotional processing, making them less likely to feel fear or anxiety and more prone to reckless behavior. On the other hand, the prefrontal cortex, situated at the very front of the brain, is responsible for our decision-making, planning, and self-control. It's the control center, if you will, that helps us think before we act. However, in the psychopath's brain, this region is often underactive. This underactivity leads to impulsivity, lack of foresight, and poor decision-making, traits that are commonly observed in psychopaths. These differences in the amygdala and prefrontal cortex don't just alter the way a psychopath thinks, but also drastically affects their emotional landscape. Imagine not feeling fear when you're in a dangerous situation, or not feeling guilt after hurting someone. It's a chilling thought, isn't it? But that's the reality for psychopaths. They lack the emotional depth that most of us take for granted. Their emotions are like shallow pools, devoid of the depth of empathy, remorse, or fear. This is not to say that psychopaths are incapable of experiencing emotions. On the contrary, they can feel and even mimic emotions quite convincingly. However, their emotional experience is often fleeting and superficial, akin to wearing a mask that can be easily taken off when no longer needed. These brain differences don't just affect how a psychopath thinks, but also how they feel. You've probably heard that psychopaths lack empathy, but what does this really mean? Dive into the depths of a psychopath's mind, and you'll find an emotional void, a gaping chasm where empathy, compassion and remorse typically reside. This isn't a mere deficiency, it's an absence, a void. It's like trying to describe colors to someone who was born blind. In the average person, emotions serve as a compass, guiding us through the complexities of social interactions. We feel joy in others' happiness, sorrow in their pain, guilt for our wrongs, and pride in our achievements. But for a psychopath, this compass is broken. The needle that should point towards empathy and understanding spins aimlessly. This lack of emotional responsiveness doesn't mean that psychopaths can't identify emotions in others. Quite the contrary, they are often adept at recognizing and exploiting these emotions for their own gain. The psychopath sees emotions not as shared experiences, but as tools to manipulate, to control, to dominate. Imagine, if you will, a predator in the wild. It doesn't empathize with its prey. It doesn't feel guilt or remorse. It simply sees an opportunity, a means to an end. This is the chilling reality of a psychopath's worldview. This emotional void, this lack of fear, empathy, and remorse shapes the psychopath's behavior in profound ways. It underpins their manipulative tactics, their ruthless ambition, their callous disregard for others. Without the normal range of human emotions, psychopaths navigate the world in a unique and often chilling way. They exist in a realm of cold calculation, strategic manipulation, and self-serving ambition, driven not by emotional connections, but by their own desires and goals. Psychopaths, though forming a small percentage of the population, can cause significant harm. Their lack of remorse and empathy can lead to destructive behavior, damaging relationships, and causing emotional, financial, and in some cases, physical harm to those around them. Yet, understanding the brain of a psychopath isn't just about identifying potential threats, it's also about finding ways to help. Despite the chilling aspects of psychopathy, it's crucial to remember that these individuals are not necessarily monsters, but rather people with a mental condition that they didn't choose. By studying the psychopath's brain, scientists are aiming to develop treatments and interventions that can help these individuals lead more fulfilling lives. This research could also provide valuable insights into other conditions characterized by a lack of empathy and remorse, such as narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. In the end, the more we understand about the brain of a psychopath, the better equipped we are to address the challenges they pose and to help them integrate more effectively into society. While they may be a small percentage of the population, the impact of psychopaths on society is significant. The brain of a psychopath not only sheds light on this mysterious condition, but also helps us understand the full spectrum